All right, we are live on Bet What Happens Live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the live halftime show. Let me update the live numbers real quick just so we have a good idea of what the live probability is for each team winning. So give me just a second here. All righty, we are updated. So if we pull up my screen here, we can see what the live probability of winning is. So the Chargers have an 81.6% chance of winning, and the Colts an 18.4% chance of winning as we head to halftime. The Chargers are up by a score of 10-3, up by 7 points. And if you have any comments, if you have any questions, make sure to leave them into the chat here. But let's take a look at where we are. So these teams pretty much play a neutral pace here in the second half. Almost nothing there in terms of second half pace. But we are in a situation where either it's going to be in a close game or the Chargers are leading, depending on how the first possession of the second half plays out, first couple possessions. So if we just take the average of all of these, we're getting about a second per play faster. So there is probably some hidden value in the over, especially because the Chargers are starting with the ball. They're the faster of the two teams. And probably the more efficient offense of the two teams. But I'm not going to take a live over here. If you saw me, I tweeted I took a live over of 34.5. The current live over is 33.5 at FanDuel, 34.5 at DraftKings. If you want to take the live over, I don't think it's a bad spot to take it, but I'm personally not going to take it, not making it an official bet on Bet What Happens Live, but at least wanted to give you all the information here to work with. As we can see, the projected rush and pass splits, the Chargers, I keep almost saying San Diego Chargers. I don't know what's getting into me. The Los Angeles Chargers are expected to pass about 14% less than their pregame projection on their pass percentage, whereas Indy is projected to pass about 10% more than their pregame pass percentage projection. So that reflects the current state of the game. The Chargers are up by 7. The Chargers have the ball. The Chargers are favored. So it makes sense that Indy, playing from behind as the underdog team, will be passing more, and Los Angeles will be running more. I don't know how many years it's been, but I still cannot stop doing that. So let's go look at the player props. And as always, we're going to begin with the passing props. So we're going to come over here, and Nick Foles' live passing prop is 191.5. Justin Herbert, 272.5. So we're showing some value on Nick Foles over, and we're showing some value on Justin Herbert's under. Now, because the Chargers are starting with the ball, I don't want to go with Justin Herbert's under. And I think Nick Foles over will come down a little bit because the Chargers are going to start with the ball. So we're going to want to see what the Chargers do with the ball on this first possession. Especially if they score, there's definitely going to be value on Nick Foles over passing yards here. He started off terrible, and so maybe that's baked into the model, but he got a lot better as the half went on, and I do think there could end up being some value on Nick Foles over on his passing yards. But let's wait out this Chargers first possession because they are starting with the ball instead of the Colts. So let's go over to the receiving props and check out the receivers. Actually, real quick before we do that, let me just check the interception props. Foles we have a projection of plus 143 to throw an interception. His live odds are plus 116, so we're not showing value there. Herbert, we're showing plus 364 as fair odds. Live market plus 290, so no value there as well to have another interception. So no interception value. Now let's go over to the receiving props. Let's see if any of Foles' receivers have some over value. Michael Pittman Jr., his live prop is 40.5 yards. Paris Campbell, 25.5. Alec Pierce, let me see if we have a prop on him. We do, 46.5. Does Ashton Doolin have a live line? He does not, but Jelani Woods does. And shout out to my boss, Sean Kerner, for nailing that Jelani Woods over on his prop there. 48.5 is his current live line, and we're no longer showing value there. So I think books have adjusted to his usage, which is why you want to be tailing Kerner, because, that was all about his usage was that was the whole reason he played him there. So pretty interesting situation there with the book adjusting on Jelani Woods, adjusting his live prop upward from what they probably would have had if they didn't adjust his usage there. So Zach Moss, 10.5. And I think that's all the Colts receivers that are unlocked. So let's take a look and see. As far as the Colts, we're showing undervalue on Zach Moss. Zach Moss right now does not have a reception. He doesn't even have a target. So could be some interesting undervalue there. He also is not starting with the ball. So you know what? We're going to make our first live bet. We're taking Zach Moss under 10.5 receiving yards. And let me also go over to DraftKings just to make sure we get the best line we can. Zach Moss under 10.5, minus 120 at DraftKings and minus 114 at FanDuel. So we're going to take Zach Moss under 10.5 receiving yards, minus 114 at FanDuel as our first bet on Bet What Happens Live. And again, this is very interesting because remember, we're showing the Colts are going to be passing a lot more in the second half than pregame expectations. So even accounting for that and the fact that the Colts are not starting with the ball, we're showing undervalue. So that's just going to go even further towards the under, most likely after this possession, especially if the Chargers don't score. But even if they do, it's fine because we're already showing so much undervalue and some time's going to run off the clock. So Zach Moss under 10.5 receiving yards is our first bet on Bet What Happens Live. I love this one. Looks like, Deion Jackson could potentially be in line for some work there, but his prop is locked. So let's go to the other Colts receivers. We're showing some overvalue on Paris Campbell here. Now, Paris Campbell currently has 7 receiving yards. We're showing him a median the rest of the game of 26 rest of game, which would be a total of 33 receiving yards versus a 25.5 line. But again, the Colts are not going to start with a ball. If San Diego scores, though, if Los Angeles, how many times am I going to do this? If Los Angeles scores, I think we'll end up showing value on Paris Campbell. So this is going to be one we're going to wait out the Chargers here. And then let's go over to the Chargers receivers receiving props real quick before we head to rushing props. And then after that, I'll look at all of your questions in chat. You all are coming in with some questions I can see already. So let me real quick get through these before we get to those questions. I haven't forgot about y'all. All right. And Chargers tight ends. Let's see. Do we have Everett up? We do, 11.5. All right. So looking at the Chargers' top 3 receivers, we are showing value on the under, but they are starting with the ball. So we're going to pass on the Chargers receivers for now because they are starting with the ball. So it'll end up being a little bit higher than we actually think. But I think we're in a really good spot here with that the Zach Moss prop. So let's go to the rushing props real quick. Zach Moss, 65.5. Justin Herbert, 3.5. Josh Kelly, 24.5. Austin Eckler, 51.5, which I think is pretty low given the Chargers are ahead, but what do I know? Nope, looks like fair value. That's why we run the numbers, folks. That's why we run the numbers. Justin Herbert, we're showing overvalue, but I don't necessarily think there's going to be value on the over now that they're probably not going to be passing the ball as much. A little bit of this is based off scrambling, and we would need to adjust our pregame projections to account for less scrambling because of the fact that they are absolutely in a leading position. But I certainly could see the over being value here. I mean, it's only 3.5. The problem is there's going to be some kneel downs as well if the Chargers are leaving. Not necessarily, but possibly, probably, potentially some kneel downs. So we want to avoid that prop. And then we're showing undervalue on Zach Moss rushing yards. So right now, Zach Moss has 37 rushing yards. We're projecting his rest of game projection for 20.1, which would be 57 as a median. Again, the Colts are not going to start with the ball. Not only are the Colts not going to start with the ball, but they're going to be passing more. So Zach Moss under 65.5. We're just going to take both of his unders here. I wonder if there's a rushing plus receiving yards prop if you all wanted to play that. We do see that actually. So Zach Moss, 80.5 rushing plus receiving yards. What are we projecting him for? Let me go real quick. He has 37 plus 0 plus a median of 20 plus a median of 6.5. We're saying 63.5. So we're going to go Zach Moss. We're just going all in on under on Zach Moss. We're going to go under 80.5 rushing plus receiving yards. That is another official bet. Under 80.5 rushing plus receiving yards on Zach Moss. I think this is a great line here because they're not going to be rushing. He's not being used during the receiving game right now. So this is definitely a good spot where we want to be under on Zach Moss. So real quick, let me get to those questions. We have 1 minute left. Got the 1 minute warning here. Odds we get 2 more receptions from Eckler. That's a great question, Charlie. Let's take a look. Eckler receptions, rest of game projection. We have 2.1, so better than 50-50 shot, certainly, or about a 50-50 shot. I can do 1 minus plus on 2 or more, or 2 more. Okay, so 1, that true. And let's go percent. 61.7% chance we get at least 2 more. And for 3 more, 34.7% chance. Live game over 33.5. I talked about that right off the beginning. I like it, but I already took it at 34.5, so it's not an official bet. So wrapping it up, our official bets are Zach Moss under on his rushing yards, Zach Moss under on his receiving yards, and Zach Moss under his rushing plus receiving yards. The whole shebang there with Zach Moss. We're just taking his unders, and that'll wrap it up for Bet What Happens Live. Enjoy the second half, everybody. We're fading Zach Moss, so it's going to be interesting, but that's what we're doing. And we will see you all later. So enjoy the game and see you on Thursday for Thursday Night Football.